Good afternoon or morning to everyone, depending on where you're hopping in from. My name is Katie Ryder, and I am the National Director of Jews for a Secular Democracy. Welcome to our November 17th Call with Us program. This is a regular gathering that we do mostly on a monthly basis where we meet together and we make phone calls to our elected officials about an issue. Today's call with us is sponsored by the Jewish Women and Religious Freedom in Pittsburgh Project, which is grant sponsored by the Jewish Women's Foundation of Greater Pittsburgh. We are very grateful to them for their sponsorship. It allows us to do these kind of programs on a regular basis. We are being joined today. Oh, I have one more person who's coming in here. We are being joined today by Alliyson Feldmann, who is our Pittsburgh organizer, and by Rachel Martin Golman from NCJW Pittsburgh. We are really excited to have our guest host today. So I am going to turn it over to Alliyson. Alliyson.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I am going to share my screen and we're just going to go through some really simple advocacy basics so you feel really secure in your phone calls. So give me one quick second when I move to share my screen. Share. All right. Can everybody see my screen? I hit present. Let's see. Can you guys see it? Can I get a
Yep.
thumbs up? Perfect. Okay, so if you don't know, you're going to know. We're going to call our elected officials today and talk to them about this really amazing bill that is important to get through, which Rachel's going to touch on. So I'm just going to give you basics so that you can do this about anything that's important to you in the future. So, your voice is your superpower. That's a great basic for this. So, we get to use our voices in a lot of ways in our democracy and use our First Amendment. And one of that is to actually reach out to the people that we elected to represent us. I always like to remind people that they are not our leaders. They work for us, they're our representation. So, you need to treat them as such, right? Call them to task when they need to be called to task. So while you get inundated, I know I do with emails to sign petitions and to put my signature on this and my name on that. That's all and great, but really the most powerful way is through calling and talking to them or sending them a direct email. So it's not easy for them to overlook because they are mandated by the federal government to actually track all of that and they're graded for how they respond to it. And so while you might not talk to your senator or your congressperson, they do have to look at the metrics of who called them and what they called them about. So this is a really important way to get to engage with them. So every call is tallied. The staff records these calls about whether a bill's coming up or if it's something that's happening back in their home district. The more calls they get, it can really shape the way that that graph looks for them and see where they need to pay attention. And it can help sway how they're going to respond to something when a bill or something comes up. So, if your call is not picked up, we're going to go through all of the scenarios for when you call. So when you call, more than likely, you're either going to get a page, an intern who's usually a very novice college student if it's in the summer, or a senior in high school that just graduated that's going to college. So remember that and remember being kind and polite to them is important, but also concise because all they're doing all day is fielding these calls. Um, so you are going to say and spell your name and address for them, and you're going to let them know that you're a constituent. That's always really important because that goes on to a more prioritized metric. You're going to state the top of your call. So today we're talking about the SAVE Act, right? Or it's SAVE Act. It's not what we're talking about today. Sorry. It's an example of what you would be talking about. So you're going to say your bill that we're going to learn about from Rachel that you're calling about. you are going to state what your ask is. So your ask is for them to support the bill or them to say no to the bill or them to hold a town hall or them to actually come in their district and meet with people. Whatever your ask comes next. So you're calling, and you can use strong language for this. You can say you demand this, you expect this. You are, disgusted if they don't do this. It's okay to use an emotional word here, but we want to stay away from anything that could be conceived as a threat, right? You can say things like, my next vote for you is on the line. That's not a threat. That's telling them that, where your power is. So you have now told them your name, told them your address, spelled that for them, stated that you're a constituent, and stated why you're calling. Then you're going to give a reason. So when I'm calling about reproductive rights, I say my name, where I'm from, and I tell them I'm a national storyteller, a published national storyteller with Planned Parenthood. And this is important to me because if you don't do the right thing, I'm probably going to do a news article about it. So there's giving them that very specific of why it matters to you. If you're clergy, this is a great time to say, I'm a rabbi and this is important to me because of my faith. For us, it can be, I'm a Jewish woman and you are stopping me from practicing my faith by doing this. Um, you can say, I'm an attorney, I'm a nurse, I'm a mom. Whatever marker for you is giving more information and why your opinion is valid and matters on top of already being a constituent. If you have a short personal story, that's fine. Keep it concise, like less than 20 seconds would be great. And then you are going to restate what you want at the end. So if I'm calling about a reproductive issue, so again, I want to let you know my name's Alliyson Feldmann. I'm a constituent and I want the senator to vote yes on this bill. You're going to thank them. And I always ask them to send me in the mail or the email or by email a response from the office. Because I think it's a great way to have a paper trail that you did this call and that they actually are taking note of it. You can also request a call back from someone higher up in the staff. You're probably not going to get a call back. You're for sure going to get a letter. It's one of my favorite things to open up the mailbox and see a letter from a senator or a congressperson from an issue I called about a year ago. Because it's great to say, look, I called and it took you a year to get back to me. It's a great way to keep that relationship, that connection, and a paper trail that you did it, you did talk to them, and that they heard you. So, if your call is picked up by a live person, we went through this, again, concise, you're speaking on the specific legislation, we're being kind, non-combative, but direct, right? And we're using emotion words that can elicit the gravity of what you're calling about. So if your elected official is supporting what you call or what you're calling for, it's really nice to thank them and to support them because if people haven't witnessed a C-SPAN, when a big important bill is coming up, you can see that the person that might not be holding the party line is getting peppered by people, right? They're taking a lot of heat from their partisan members on the floor. And a great way to kind of shore up their backbone is if they have a really, clear graphic in front of them from the incoming calls that show their constituents support it. Because they're there to represent you. And who do they answer to? You guys. Whether it's at a ballot box in the odd year election, or when we're trying to flip Congress in 2026, or when it's at their next presidential. So you want to make sure you're also supporting things when they're meaningful and powerful to you. It does help those representatives. And you'll see that the more you call, the better the relationship gets with them. And you might get a little more explanation if they're on the other side of something for you. So if your elected official is not supporting what you're calling about, right? You can ask for a why. You're probably not going to get an answer because again, you're talking to a page. So this is another great way to ask for a written response and an explanation of why they're not supporting this bill. That's only going to be helpful to people that are trying to get that bill passed in the future, because then you've got it in writing on why they're not voting with their constituents' best interests. So I know I'm kind of going through this fast. Feel free to like raise a hand, and if somebody can clue me in if there's a question. So before we let's do this and hear from Rachel, the other opportunity that could happen is that you're going to get a voicemail. And you're basically going to do the same format for that voicemail, but a little more concise. I'd let your story go because, again, someone's going to be listening to those voicemails either through the day or through the night, and they're just wanting to check off metrics, right? So, hi, my name's Alliyson Feldmann. This is my address. I'm a constituent of Congresswoman Summer Lee, and I believe that she needs to vote yes on this bill to support this thing, and I will remember her vote when I go to the ballot for her in 2026. Please call me back or send an email that you to verify, or send a letter to verify that you got my voicemail. Thanks. Any questions? I know it was a lot and quick, but it is a pretty easy process. I often will bullet point for myself what I want to do and how I'm going to do it so I can just check next to it as I make these calls. It really should only take like 8 minutes of your life to call all of your elected officials at a federal level. So if no one has any questions, I'm going to pass off to Rachel and she's going to explain what we're calling about today. Awesome. You're great learners. Rachel, it's all you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Allison. Hi, I'm Rachel Martin Golman. I'm the Senior Director of Social Impact at National Council of Jewish Women, Pittsburgh. And just a quick, I live here, live and work here in Pittsburgh, so welcome to all the Pittsburghers and Pennsylvanians and everyone else. And really at NCJW Pittsburgh, we work to transform lives and communities through fostering relationships, mobilizing action, and driving change. And we focus our work around reproductive justice, inclusive democracy, and economic equity. Core to those values is the value of pikuach nefesh, or saving a life, which guides our work to promote reproductive freedom and access. And we really want to create a world where everyone, regardless of their religion or race or class or gender or ability or immigration status, is able to control their body, sexuality, and future. We also really believe that ensuring women and young people have access to reproductive health care, information, and options it's a moral imperative and essential to preserving religious liberty. No one religious belief should be imposed on all of us, and to do so threatens the nation's commitments to religious liberty. So for these reasons, we are really concerned about a lot of the recent attempts we've seen to misuse private reproductive and sexual health data to criminalize pregnancy outcomes or reproductive decisions, or to harass or intimidate people for their reproductive choices. And we've, over the last, I don't know, not even a decade, we've seen an increase in the use of technology, things like period tracking apps, which aren't covered under HIPAA. HIPAA, if you're not familiar, is the federal law that requires like your doctor or your hospital or your therapist or whatever to keep your digital and other medical records private. But that doesn't apply to a lot of places like your period tracking app. We've also seen an increase in the amount of data, including reproductive and sexual health data, that's collected and sold among data brokers. And most concerning to me anyway, is that we've seen an increase in attempts to then use people's digital footprints to criminalize pregnancy outcomes and to harass individuals who are seeking care. And even in a state like Pennsylvania, where abortion remains legal, they're not fully accessible, but that's another conversation. So this criminalization and harassment, it really echoes historical patterns that we've seen around surveillance and persecution of marginalized groups, including Jews. And in our current political climate, we can only expect that to continue and even escalate if we leave it unchecked. So in response, the My Body, My Data bill, which is what we're talking about and calling about today, has been introduced in both the US House and Senate, and it works to establish a national standard to protect reproductive and sexual health data, including information collected by apps and search engines and wearables and location services. So the main things that this bill will do is to limit the collection, retention, use, and disclosure of this data that's being collected by companies and other entities that are not otherwise protected by HIPAA. So providing a little layer of protection that currently there is none at the federal level and only in some states, not in Pennsylvania. The bill would create a national standard, but currently there's only a few states that cover these entities like period tracking apps. It would require regulated entities. So again, these data brokers, social media platforms, things like that, to publish clear privacy guidelines outlining how they collect and use reproductive health data. It would give individuals the right to access, correct, or delete their reproductive health data. And it also has an enforcement mechanism. So it authorizes the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, to enforce the law, and it also gives individuals a private right of action. So individuals would be able to bring a case if they believe that the law hadn't been followed and it impacted them. So that's the issue in the bill in a nutshell. I guess I can turn it back to Allison.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Katie.
What I was going to say is if everybody wants to click on, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. That is our backgrounder on this act, and it has the ask right in it with a script. We don't typically give scripts, but this one's a little bit complicated, so we just wrote up a fairly short, concise script that everybody can use. I'll also cut and paste it into the chat in 1 minute, if it's easier for some people. We are supporting these acts and really asking that they get hearings and a vote, because right now they're just sitting there doing nothing. And the majority party controls whether a bill gets a hearing and a vote. And so the first ask is co-sponsoring, and then if they're co-sponsoring, really pushing to get the hearing and the vote.
And how do we know if they're co-sponsoring?
Co-sponsoring right on the on what I just posted, it has a link for that you can go to see co-sponsors, but I can also put that on here too.
Find out. Okay, I see it.
But here's the co-sponsors for the House.
You
can click on that, and let me quickly get you the co-sponsors for the Senate. You can also ask, are you co-sponsoring this bill? And they can look it up on their computer really quickly.
And it looks like if you're from Pittsburgh, both of our congresspeople from the Pittsburgh area are co-sponsors. And then
believe it or not, there's Pennsylvania senator is a co-sponsor currently.
Correct.
Okay, so yes on House, no on Senate.
Okay. And then if they're co-sponsors, the ask is, one, thank you for co-sponsoring. That's a big deal. They don't get thank yous a lot, and that actually makes a difference. And two, since you're co-sponsoring, can you try to bring more publicity to this? Could you host a press conference about it? Can you put out statements? Can you really try to push the majority party to have a hearing?
Yes, Deborah, I'm seeing the question in the chat. You asking for them to vote yes and to pressure a vote to make it to the floor is absolutely an agreeable ask. That would be great.
I also see a question from Kate. Does this have any bipartisan support? I believe currently all co-sponsors in both the House and Senate are Democrats. But I think it is really important that everyone is hearing about the importance of this issue. It's a privacy issue. This is fundamentally a privacy issue, and it should have bipartisan support. So I think we need to continue to make that case.
Kate?
And so, since I'm in Florida, and I would say go blue, Paul. I'm from Michigan originally, so thank you. But I have all Republicans that represent me, and do they have arguments that I can push back against? Clearly, it's privacy, but what could possibly push them to say, yes, your private data should be shared when it's never shared on any other issue. And could it be expanded to more than just periods and stuff? I mean, once you start here, why doesn't everything go out? Mental health, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, that's an argument you could make.
Yes, I think that's great. And I also find that when you're working with someone that, looks to be ethically opposed to this, right? It's really nice to remind them that reproductive bills, overwhelmingly win at the ballot box,
Yeah.
and that this is a nice way for them to step in that direction and still keep their pro-life status
Right.
intact, but build a bridge, because we're in Pittsburgh, to
Yeah. Yep.
some bipartisanship, right? And it can help them in 2026.
And
And
Kate, I think we have to be honest that there's going to be issues you're not going to be able to convince them of.
Right.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
but I mean,
I like when I worked for a state senator, we had issues that people called about that there was no way she was ever
Mhm.
going to change her mind on, ever.
yeah,
And
But
sometimes, yep,
but I was let me say, but if we got a lot of calls about an issue, we would discuss it. And sometimes there can be like a little fringe around the edges of something. Like this might be an area that they could be like, you know what, I really do believe in data privacy. So that's where I think more than anything is just calling and saying, I want you to support this.
right. A
and,
general principle.
The
Yeah. I
general
mean,
right.
principle, right?
And I think too, you can push people off a topic, which can also be helpful, right? If they feel there's so much heat on a topic, they'll just stop trying to push that kind of legislation and back away from it, which can also be really helpful, to take the bullseye off of it for a hot minute.
yeah. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? No, no question is silly.
Wait, I have one more question then.
Sure.
So there's one Democrat in Florida that's a co-sponsor who does not represent me. Is it worth me calling and just saying thank you as a Floridian for doing this? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll do that.
Yes, because it's such a weird line, right? So we're constituents of our congressperson, but our congressperson is going to not just represent us, but have a voice for all of the state that we're in. So, yeah, and they will use those metrics and their wins, right, and what they're hearing from to help them in midterms, which is always helpful.
Judy, hi, welcome.
Hi, how are you? So I just want to remind Floridians, I don't know how many of them are on this call, that 57% of Floridian voters upheld the right
Mhm.
to make abortion healthcare. So I think that my wonderful representatives in Florida also are hostile to this. So
Right.
I'll leave it that way. But we just need to remind them that this is what the voters said,
Yeah.
and they need to know this.
Yeah. And this is such an important bill. Like people, without getting into like the vast details of fake clinics, right? We've got several that operate here in Allegheny County, and you fill out a form when you go in that looks very much like HIPAA. But what you're doing is signing up to be tracked by the Heritage Foundation. So, this is going to save lives and it's going to make a big difference in women's ability to access healthcare truthfully, right? So it's an important bill.
And
Okay.
there's even a period tracking app that's owned by one
No,
of the the main crisis pregnancy center
Mhm.
organizations.
I did not know that. That's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And I think, Judy, to your point, and then I'm going to let you all make your calls. Those of you who are from states where it is legal should say that,
Hmm.
that this is a legal issue. Like, I mean, you should bring up it is legal in this state. The majority of people in this state believe that reproductive rights are are.
Sanctioned by the
Yes,
Constitution.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And a church-state separation issue, by the way. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask everybody to put themselves on mute and to turn off your camera. and make your phone calls to your two congresspeople, to your senator. I will also put, thank you, Judy, make your calls later. That's great. I will also put links to who to make phone calls to or how you find your House and senators in the chat in 1 second here. When you're done, we'll give you like 8 minutes or so. When you're done, please pop on back on, either turn your camera back on or raise your hand just so that we know. And then we'd really hope that you'll stay with us for 5 minutes after so we can do some feedback. I have a really quick survey for everybody to answer, and then I'd love to hear some feedback of how it went. Okay, so if everybody can make your calls. All right, guys, I think we're gonna if everyone can kind of come back, or if you're still making your calls, that's fine, but we're gonna get started a little bit on our debrief. What I'd love to is if people could please take 1 minute. It will take you 1 minute and fill out our little survey. You just click on that link. It will take you a little Zoom survey. It's just 3 quick questions. I would really appreciate it. But more than that, I would love to hear how your calls went. Did you feel, Terry, you just said that you felt excellent prep. That's great. Did people feel they were prepped to make these calls? Can anybody unmute yourself and kind of give us your experience? Kate?
Thank you. Your script was great. And thanks to Judy, I added in the 57% of people who voted for abortion access, legal abortion access. And I do a lot of reproductive rights work in the faith-based community, so I could add in, didn't have to say I'm Jewish because I'm not, but many people of faith who aren't Jewish also support it. So that was a great script, and I appreciate it. And never got anybody but an answering machine, which is what always happens here. But
Wonderful.
great preparation. This is a very helpful way, and you're moving along quickly, which I appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Anyone else? Terry? Oh, you're still muted, Terry.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I was really surprised to hear that Senator Gillibrand will not state her position on anything till she actually votes. I was shocked, but maybe that's the way she is. Senator Schumer and Representative Latimer both they were interns and they said they would get back to me by email. So they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Excellent. Excellent. And you felt prepared with what you wanted
Yes,
to say?
excellent. I just went right straight through. I think one of them felt kind of bulldozed. Like I don't think most people, speak that much in depth. But I think also they may not be aware of the bill.
Right.
They
So
may not.
Terry, a great angle for your senator always. I've worked in her office quite a few times on different legislation is rural health care. And that tie to rural health care, any bill that has to do with reproductive rights,
Okay.
and the lack of access to clinics and OBGYNs in rural New York State is a great angle for her. That's one of the few things she stands really strongly up for. So,
Okay, that's good to know.
mhm.
I mean,
Anyone
I
else?
generally I haven't been that impressed with her leadership, but if you have tips for getting through to her, that's really helpful.
Yeah, she's an interesting human being. But rural health care, she's been taking seriously. So,
Okay.
Anyone else want to just chime in? Judy?
Yes, with my representative of Buchanan, I spoke to a very nice young man and I explained that this was private and he was very nice on the phone. Buchanan, anyhow, I won't go into it. Anyhow, and then I left a message with Scott's office and reminding him that 57% of Florida voters approve abortion. And then I left a message with Moody's office, and because she so recently left Florida, and she said that that amendment 4 would fail would never pass. Over her dead body would it pass. So I reminded her that 57% of people did vote for Amendment 4. She was right in the fight. So that's what I did.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, I think that is it for everybody, unless someone else wants to chime in. Kate?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This was terrific, and I tried to share, and I didn't share wide enough or fast enough. But um, would you all want? If, Judy and I are part of a coalition in Florida of like 80 organizations that all are focused on reproductive rights writ large. But I would you all be willing to do another presentation or allow us to use your slides? Because I mean, the way you've done this, these are all very experienced folks. So, but your scripts and everything else, and I loved your talking points, blah blah blah. The whole thing was great. So, would you prefer to do it yourselves if we can arrange it, or can we use your materials and
I
pass
think
it
we
along?
could do it. Rachel, would you be willing to do it again?
Sure.
What do you think, Judy? Could we, if we can
Absolutely. Yeah.
speed it up?
Well,
Yeah. Okay. So let me
absolutely.
figure this out and get back to you all because this is
That
really
sounds great,
great.
Kate. The more people we can reach, the better.
Yeah.
Kate, that makes my heart so happy because that's it, you know. It was the group of us doing this today, but teaching other people to do
Yeah.
it is what's going to move the needle, right?
Yes.
So,
And your tips on how to be an effective advocate on the phone are so helpful because we have so many issues we call on. And
mhm.
usually, and we have one good bill in Florida actually, but this is, I think, is the more training people can get and just, I've printed out all your things and I really appreciate it. So thank
Oh,
you.
and feel free to share them, Kate. Those
I
advocacy
thank you.
basics,
Is
feel
that
free to
okay?
share it.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. I will do.
absolutely. And if you can fill out that survey, just click
Oh,
that
where
link
is it in the chat?
before you sign off. You click the link and then you can sign off. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone being here. And that is all for today. By the way, our next call with us is going to be December 10th. We have not actually picked the topic yet. There's so many evergreen topics to call on.
Mhm.
We're kind of hashing that out right now, but we will be sending out an email. It's the same thing. We'll try to keep it to 45 minutes or less. And please spread the word. When you get the email from us, share it widely because we'd love to see more people doing this. So, everyone, have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you again in a few weeks, we hope. Bye,
Thank you
Thank
all.
everybody.
Thank
you.
you
Thanks,
very much.
everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye. Bye-bye.